My name is Amelia Florentino, and I'm a student at Renton High School. Washington is the only state in the country that has a presumptive sentencing grid for juvenile offenders, reducing judicial discretion. How do policy changes proposed in this committee address disparities seen in Washington's juvenile justice system, and what are your thoughts on them?
Thanks for that question, Amelia, and appreciate that you're coming from Renton High School, which is right in the heart of the 11th District. I was a golf coach at Renton High School, and my parents went there. I went to Hazen, and I teach at Lindbergh, so always fun when there's a student from the Renton School District down in Olympia. My hope for working on fixing the grid for our juvenile offenders is that we can make small incremental change. This year, one of the most egregious pieces of that grid deal with robbery 1 and robbery 2 charges. Currently in House Bill 2389, we have what I would call a fix to that, like that way out of whack proposal that right now the grid has a sentence of up to 5 years, for example, for a 16 or 17-year-old who commits robbery 1, where that's actually that's a longer sentence than some adult sentences for that same crime right now. We're trying to almost cut that in half at this point and make some headway as we're going into additional discussions. It's not an easy topic because it's not the most popular thing to be reducing sentences. We don't want people to get out too early and not be rehabilitated to the point where they're maybe committing additional crimes. So there's this fine line that we have to look at, and once a system is set up, it's hard to change that system. So slow, incremental change, trying to figure out where those inroads can be made is part of what we're hoping to do with House Bill 2389 this year.
That's interesting that Washington State is the only state that has the grid system. But, it was put into place many years ago, and it was for a reason, for accountability, to make sure that when there are crimes, there's consequences. And I still believe in that. But I also understand that our kids that are in the situation in the juvenile justice system have been through many trauma issues. They have some real personal problems, and we need to be cognitive of that and understanding of that. We are looking at a new system now where the grid is shortened, I would say that, so that only the worst crimes they will be doing time in the juvenile justice system, and the rest of the time they're going to be in the community, surrounded with a group of people that are going to hold them accountable for their community service in school. Now, the bill that Representative Cortez has this year, we believe is not quite strong enough. We, as the Republican Party, believe that we need to make sure that some of these crimes are added to the grid, to the crime system, so that they are doing the time. We also I believe that we need to make sure that the kids, when they are performing the crimes, they are held accountable in front of the judge, and they are immediately sentenced for all of the crimes that they're committed, for each crime, and then given the diversion. So at that point, if they have they're not following the diversion, then they come immediately and go into the juvenile justice system without stopping at the judge. It is important, in my opinion, that they know that there's something hanging over their head. Now, we also need to make sure that we have the services available for them in our community, and I'm fearful that we don't have enough set up yet in the community for them. They have been, when many years ago I learned about the ACEs, and that is the trauma, counting the trauma issues that these kids have accumulated as they've grown up, whether they're coming from a divorced family or they've been grown up in a gang family. All of those create trauma, and the more you have, the worse situation and mental health issues that you have. So we need to make sure that these kids understand that and that they can change. I had 2 gentlemen in here in my office last week from Mount Vernon, and they were gang members in their lifetime. They are now running a nonprofit to help people and kids get out of gangs and help them through the process of learning what does life really look like in the outside world, and how they can start to acclimate to a society and maybe someday have their own family, as these young gentlemen did. It is a complicated issue, and it's all about, I like to be thinking that we're working with the crisis mode, but we also need to be looking at prevention. And again, that's where our family support centers come in. We need to surround our families and help them in their through their troubles, and help them, give them some hope and support so that they can raise their children to be adults and society members.